My name is Tylluan. I'm a solitary pagan witch. I'm an author and the founder of the Wolf and Howl Press. And today's little chat is about dragons. It was suggested by a listener who wanted to know how people work with dragons in witchcraft, and whether another person, I think it was, asked, do they guide people? So I'll do my best. I don't personally work with dragons. I think part of the problem with this is defining what a dragon is. Now, where I come from, which is Wales, part of the UK, our national flag has actually got a dragon on it, a great big dragon, red one. And it's beautiful. And there's all sorts of legends attached to the stories. And down in Rosili, down on the Gower in South Wales, there's actually a promontory goes out into the sea called Worm's Head. And a worm in Anglo-Saxon was a dragon. Worm. You see it in lots of names. Things like there's one on the borders of Wales called Wormlow Tump, and I think it's a wonderful name. But worm, you see, is the dragon, and the tump is from the Latin tumulus, which means a mound. We'll come on to that in a minute. Do people believe in dragons in ancient times? Yes, of course they did. The church rather hijacked them and made it, St. Martin or St. George. I think both of them were dragon slayers. But of course, what is a dragon? Now, I mentioned about the Anglo-Saxons called it a worm, and there are words which also mean dragon, and you will find them in place names. So obviously dragon, but there's not much has survived as dragon. Drake is another. Now we think of a drake as being a male duck, and it also meant a dragon. So that's another. And you do find places like Drake's Holes and things like that, and it's nothing to do with Sir Francis Drake in that instance. There are places named after him, but it meant a dragon's hole. Now we're coming back to Wormlow Tump and the dragon's mound. And a serpent, also a serpent, a worm, drake, and dragon. And they were all basically meant the same sort of thing. So what did they mean? Something that slithered, something that belonged to the earth, the drake's holes, the drake's mound. What was it doing there? Well, traditionally what dragons did was they guarded treasure. And you find this, I think, in Beowulf, where there's this huge monster, a dragon-type monster that's guarding treasure. And there's always these legends of treasure buried. There's one not far from me which is supposed to be buried in a deep cavern and guarded by these 3 magical eagles who can only be killed with a silver bullet or something like that. All sorts of stuff. If I seem a bit distracted, it's because Tapio is down here and he's pulling up my shoulder. Leave it alone, Tapio. Leave it alone. Now that's enough. And he's wagging his tail, so no, he's not going to leave things alone. He's got my hand in his mouth now. Oh, no, we're not having that. He's naughty. So when we talk about working with dragons, what are we talking about? Well, something I've noticed about them is that they belong very closely, not only with treasure, but with earth. Now, if we think there may be... This heavy breathing is not Mr. Penry, it's Tapio. If we think of not heavy breathing. If we think of things being connected with the earth, and treasure, a treasure within the earth. Now, usually we think of treasure in terms of gold, jewels, silver, marvellous sort of wealth beyond imagining. But supposing the real treasure is something else, something that lies within the earth. And it could... Tapio? No. I know you don't listen. There we go. I'll do my best. Something that lies within the earth, and it's very valuable. Well, there is a theory. It is only a theory. I don't know even if I'm sure I believe it, but it's an interesting one, that dragons guarded ley lines. Some people call them ley lines, which are invisible lines of energy that track across the globe, basically. And they join up ancient sites, marker stones, old sites where there were once religious temples, which were replaced by churches, so you can track them to very old churches, old trackways. There are lots of theories about that perhaps what the treasure is that the dragons guard is the energy within the earth. It's a lovely thought, actually. The idea of there being energy beneath our feet, which I think there is. I think there is a great deal of energy in the earth going beneath our feet, and that these lines go straight across the country, and at certain points they are guarded either by a dragon in his hole, because the lines are believed to be subterranean as well as being just on the surface. And also the mound. You see, the ancient mound would have marked something like that. So it's possible. All these things are possible things to think about. Does it help me answer the question? Not really. Not really. I don't know exactly how you would work with a dragon in witchcraft. I think the best you are going to probably do is work with the energies within the earth, and that would involve things like dowsing, trying to follow lines of energy, trying not to disrupt things that shouldn't be disrupted. Sometimes people do put markers in the ground to try and divert energy, because there may be beneficial energy. There can also be energy that's quite harmful. It's a huge subject. It starts off as something so small and so simple, and it takes us into something much, much bigger. So I'm going to stop there and probably do another video on things like the energies within the earth and see how we get with that. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the talk, and thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.